Good day everyone, this is the soldering tutorial for the half-a-bot line sensor and OLED. So what you're going to need for this one is the OLED, the line sense PCB, a jumper cable, a straight header, a 90-degree header, 270 ohm resistors, 3 of them, 10k resistors, 3 of them, infrared LEDs, 3 of them, infrared transistors, these are our light sensors, some press stick, and a piece of sandpaper. So before we start soldering, we need to do a bit of preparation first. You will notice that on your PCB there might be some extra bits. Everyone will be slightly different depending on where it got broken off from the panel. What we're going to do, we're going to just clean it off. It just snaps off. Until we have the bare PCB. Next step is just to take the sandpaper and just clean the rough edges, because the manufacturing process makes the edges a bit rough. So I just clean up the rough edges a bit. That's it. I'm going to put this aside and these aside for now. I'm going to start with the OLED. So you need the OLED and the straight headers, not the 90-degree ones. Okay, that's the top of the OLED. That's the bottom. We're going to take our press stick and make it flat. And we're going to put the header pins in like that. And put our LED on the press stick. Now we need to make sure that our header pins are 90 degrees. So make sure that they are nice and flush and 90 degrees to the OLED. And that's it for the OLED. Very straightforward. Oh, it's not 90 degrees. But that won't be a big problem. So as they say, don't do what I do, do as I say. So make sure that it is 90 degrees before you solder it. It's one of those things. It'll work. Okay. Now we're going to start with this one. There is a few gotchas here, 1 or 2 issues that you need to take note of before you start. The first thing is that the header pin here, the holes is not the size. I had a 4-pin header, it's supposed to be a 5-pin header. Let's fix that quickly. 5-pin header, not 4. Okay, the holes for the header pin is not the right size. That was a mistake that I made, but it's not a disaster because it works out quite nicely once you've got everything done. So but just take note of that. And then another thing, we have to be extra careful when soldering the LEDs, because these little footprints are very small, and if you make a mistake they tend to break out. So this is a bit of advanced soldering. We just have to keep that in mind. So with that in mind, let's start by putting in this header pin. So you will notice it won't go through. We're going to do it upside down. I'm going to put it down like this. Oh, and another thing. It doesn't show the orientation of the transistors. It only shows the orientation of the LEDs here. So when we are installing the transistors, we have to be extra careful to get the orientation right because it's not being shown here. Okay, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in the header pin and it will fit in there, and if you squeeze it in a bit, it's going to stand upright like that. Okay, and what we're going to do now is solder that leg. So there we go, and solder the far leg. There we go. Those are the two easiest ones to solder. And now we're going to solder the more difficult ones. But don't be intimidated. It's not incredibly difficult. We just touch it there. And then from the back, we put the soldering wire in. There we go, and that's what it's supposed to look like. Not that difficult. Right, the next step is the way we usually do things is we're going to start with the lowest components first. And in this instance, it is a piece of jumper wire. Okay, I would have added a piece of jumper wire. It'll be different colors depending on what I had on hand or what came out of the cable. So we're going to start by stripping off the insulation, and then we're going to use it like that. So if you look at the silk screen, these three lines here, that is where we're going to install our jumper wire. So I usually start by bending one of the sides and measuring it slightly bigger. Cut it off. About that length. And we put it in and just make sure it lies nice and flat. Okay, next up is the resistors. So we have two resistors, or two types of resistors, two values, 10 kilo ohm and 270 ohm. When installing the resistors, I find that it is easier if we bend them before we install them. So bend the resistors, and the 10 kilo ohm is brown, black, orange. There's three places for them. I like having the resistors all the same side, so I'm going to turn this one around. It's just my obsessive compulsive disorder. I don't know, it just looks pretty. And the 270 ohm. As we all know, resistors don't have a polarity, so it's not necessary for them to all be orientated the same way, but it just looks pretty. Okay, next up is the infrared LEDs. Now I am using infrared LEDs. One can use high bright white LEDs and that sort of thing, but I prefer using the infrared LEDs because they are not as susceptible to interference from things like fluorescent lights and that sort of thing. So that's why I prefer using the infrared LEDs. Now we have to make sure that the orientation is correct with these guys. So there's my notch. The short leg goes into the side with the notch, and it has to be flush. And this is the bit where we need to be careful with the soldering as well, because those little foot pads, they are very small and they make life a bit difficult for us. So we're going to put them in nice and flush. Then we're going to take our good friend press stick and stick it in there, and then make sure that the press stick is holding them straight, not like with the OLED that I had them wrong. Let's make sure this time that the press stick is keeping everything nice and straight. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now the last bit of the puzzle is the transistors. Okay, so on the silk screen, like I said before, there is no direct orientation shown for us. But what we need to do is we have to put them in that the notch, the short leg, is going to the outside. So we put them in with the short leg to the outside. Okay, and then we take our friend press stick again. One of the advantages of the press stick is it acts as a second hand or a third hand. Right, and that's it for soldering the line sensor. Maybe we can just push that one inward slightly, and that is your line sensor. So let's take these off. Before we install it onto the robot, we can actually also check all the LEDs are actually working. So there is no real documentation on this Okie. Pin 5 is ground. Pin 4 is positive 5 volt, and then pin 3, 2 and 1 is our signal lines. So if you look at your ribbon cable that came with, you will see that it is brown, red, orange, yellow and green. So because the convention usually is that black is ground and red is positive, we don't have black unfortunately, so we're going to go with brown is ground, red is 5 volt, and then orange, yellow, green is our 3 signals. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug in the 2 power wires, and then we will see whether our LEDs are working. So brown is into ground and red goes to 5 volt, and there you go. Okay, you won't see it by your naked eye because it is infrared LEDs. You will only see it here on camera. So if you want to test whether your board is working, you can put it on camera. Installing the OLED is very straightforward. I decided to put mine here because it's somewhat out of the way and easy to read. We connect ground to ground, VCC to 5 volt, SCL goes to pin B6 on the half baud, and SDA goes to pin B4 on the half baud. Installing the line sensor is very straightforward. You will have 4 extra standard nuts, 2 spacers and 2 nylon nuts, and that is the way to install it. Then we just need to loop the cable, the male side, through the robot. Once you have looped the cable through the half baud, which is quite easier said than done, the male and at the bottom the female, we are going to connect again brown to pin 5, which is ground, red to pin 4, and then orange, yellow, green. Okay, at the top, brown goes to ground, red goes to 5 volt, and the way I wrote my program, green goes to C0, yellow C1, and orange C2. And let's see if everything works. There we go, we've got some readings. And if we use a super handy line, Let's see. There it detects the line.